below 500, only one game worse than they were a season ago. These 7 games at home could set them up for a second-half run. And we have an all-star pitching matchup next on Sports Time Ohio. We're back home on a beautiful July evening in downtown Cleveland here at Progressive Field, where tonight the Indians welcome in the Houston Astros for a 4-game series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. We have tonight a terrific pitching matchup. Carlos Carrasco and Dallas Keuchel. They're tied for the league lead in wins. They're both among the top 10 in strikeouts. Keuchel leads the league in earned run average, and he hasn't even given up a run in his last 2 starts against the Yankees and the Royals.
I'm looking forward to it tonight. Carrasco coming off should have been a no-hitter. We thought he was going to do it. He was so dominating in his last start. He went 8 2/3, got to 2 strikes, and it was about a foot above Kipnis's glove. He gave up that 1 hit. It cost him the shutout, but I'll tell you what, he was brilliant in his last start. 2-0 against the Astros. Give Carrasco the lead, you got a pretty good chance. Dallas Keuchel, 2-0 against the Indians. This guy has been terrific. In 17 starts this year, 7 times he is not allowed a run. He does it by command. He moves it in and out. He keeps the ball down. He makes you hit the ball on the ground. Almost 5 ground balls per fly ball out off the arm of Dallas Keuchel. So it's going to be a great matchup. You know, we hope it plays to what we expect it to be.
A lot of people are wondering, how in the world are the Houston Astros in first place in the American League West? Well, they hit a lot of home runs. They lead the league in homers. They're second overall in runs scored in the AL. We'll see if Carrasco can keep them in the yard and pitch the Tribe to a win. When we come back, Andre Knott joins us to talk about the all-star second baseman matching up in tonight's ball game.
Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Strikeouts for Carrasco. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. 8 Ks for Carrasco. Swung out and missed. Swing and a miss. Carrasco has struck out his 12th. He struck him out. Baker's dozen for Carlos Carrasco.
Beautiful night in downtown Cleveland for hardball as the Indians return home. It'll be a 7-game homestand that will take us into the All-Star break. And really does appear to be a key point in the Indians season. Out of the break, they'll go to Cincinnati and Milwaukee, but a chance for the Indians to maybe get back to that 500 mark. It has been elusive for them for quite some time. They'll make a move, they'll get close, and then they seem to fall back. So they start to stand 5 below the break-even mark at 38-43 on the season. Matchups all over the field tonight. You've got the great matchup between Carrasco and Keuchel. We've already highlighted that. You've got the matchup between two of the top young shortstops in the game. Carlos Correa, already with 7 home runs for Houston. And, of course, Francisco Lindor, the Indians' young phenom at shortstop as well. But let's go down onto the field and talk to Andre Knott about another terrific matchup. You've got two guys who have been all-stars in the past. Jose Altuve won the batting title a year ago. Jason Kipnis currently 3rd right now.
Yes, when you look at both of these second basemen, they've kind of made it their own way. They play the game a little bit differently. As you talked about, Altuve led the league in hits last year, led the league in batting average. He's a guy that the Houston people tell me he's a spark plug. He sparks everything that they do. And since Jason Kipnis has gone into the leadoff role for the Indians, he's been more than a spark plug. He's led them in doubles, he's led them in hits, and he's led them also defensively. We don't talk about it a lot, but Jason has taken strides defensively and being a better player. And the funnest part about this is just 5 days ago when Carlos Carrasco was on the mound, you know what name Jason Kipnis was called by his teammates for 4 days after he didn't get that ball that went over his head for the hit, no hitter? They called him Altuve. This is going to be fun. And they said it because Altuve is about 5'5", 5'6" on a good day. And they said, hey, if you were a little bit taller, you would have caught that ball. It was said and fun, but I got to tell you, Jason Kipnis was not named an All-Star yesterday, and we hope sometime tonight we can say that he is an All-Star. But he takes it personal because he's worked hard to get back to where he's at, and he wants to be the best. It'll be fun to watch these two go at it for the next 4 days.
Well, no question about that. Two of the best in the American League, and really in all facets of their game. They both do it with the bats, but they both take great pride in their defense. Altuve obviously has better speed. He has 24 stolen bases already this year.
Yeah.
But Kipnis probably a little more pop overall than Altuve. But, I mean, man, you look at these two guys, and they are absolutely two of the best.
When you talk about both these hitters, Altuve may be the best at getting the barrel of the bat to the baseball on any pitch. Kipnis is not far behind. He can get the ball, the barrel of the bat to the ball. He takes it down the left field line. He pulls the ball. Altuve is a guy, he goes up there. He's a hitter. He doesn't go up there to take pitches or take walks. He finds a way to put it in play, and Kipnis does the same thing. If they walk him, they'll take their walks, but, boy, they want to get on base and make things happen.
Well, there are a number of good, very good American League second basemen. Jason Kipnis knows that all too well. He told me yesterday, hey, somebody might get snubbed. Somebody might get left out. You've got him. Altuve's been named the starter. Brian Dozier's having a fantastic year for Minnesota. So we'll wait to see. In about 5 or 10 minutes, we'll have the reserves for you officially for the American League All-Star team. Carlos Carrasco and the Indians take the field. Ready for action, and we get a look at the starting lineup for the Astros, brought to you by Toyota. Jose Altuve in the leadoff spot. Preston Tucker will bat second. Carlos Correa will hit third. Then it's Evan Gattis in the cleanup spot. Colby Rasmus fifth. Chris Carter will hit sixth. Marwin Gonzalez seventh. Jason Castro, the catcher, eighth. And Jake Marisnick, the center fielder, will bat ninth.
Tonight's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher is Carlos Carrasco. Carlos making his 17th start this year. He has 21 consecutive decisions. So, you go out there, 16 starts, he's 10-6. Coming off the best start that he has ever had. The 13 strikeouts, the 8 2/3 innings. It was so much fun to watch. You want to see what happens and what follows that last start at Tampa Bay, because he was simply it was a treat to watch. And he's 2-0 in his career against Houston. He beat him earlier this year. He shut him out and beat him 2-0. Let's set the defense behind Carrasco, which is brought to you by Chrysler. It's Aviles in left, Brantley in center, Moss in right. Urshela at third, Lindor at short, Kipnis at second, Santana at first with Gomes catching.
Mike Estabrook calling the balls and strikes. The crew chief, Dana DeMuth, is down at first base. Paul Nart and Ed Hickox at second and third, respectively. Our window system's game time temperature 79 degrees under hazy skies. Not much of a breeze at all, but what we have appears to be blowing from the right field foul pole toward the left field foul pole. So we'll see if that plays a factor, if at all, here tonight. Otherwise, really a beautiful evening.
Yes, it is.
Astros lead the West by 3 games over the Angels. Houston has lost their last 2. They dropped 2 out of 3 at Fenway Park to Boston. Yesterday was a heartbreaker. They were down early. They rallied back to take the lead, only to watch Boston come back and win it. The Indians had a heartbreaker of their own. They had a 3-0 lead against Pittsburgh, against Garrett Cole, who doesn't give up many runs. And unfortunately, Danny Salazar unable to hold that lead, and the Indians lost yesterday, dropping the series to the Bucks. So we're underway tonight as Carlos Carrasco's first pitch is up high, ball 1 to Jose Altuve.
The Astros 20-20 on the road this year. Respectable. You try and shoot for 500 on the road.
There's a strike to even the count. Altuve named the starting second baseman for the American League All-Star squad last night, his 3rd overall selection. First time as a starter. And a foul back off the gear of Yan Gomes. He'll get a second and walk it off.
Yeah, not the way you want to start the ball game. Take a foul tip and it goes right into your shin guard.
He got one of those, I think, when we were in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he
too.
did. Yes, he did. They had to give him an extra minute. He sure did.
Bounce between third and short. Long throw for Lindor. He got rid of it in a hurry, but Altuve beats it out for an infield single.
That's the one thing about Altuve. If he hits it on the ground and it stays in the infield, if it's not at somebody, it's pretty much going to be a base hit. But with Lindor having to go to his right, he's able to field it, but you have to get rid of it so quickly. He can't put anything on the throw, and it's not very accurate, so it's an infield single. Watch him get out of the box from the right side of the plate. I mean, he's at full speed after about 2 steps, so he's down there in just under 4 seconds, so that's going to be an infield single easily.
All right, so Preston Tucker, who was not with the club when the Indians faced Houston to start the season, but is another good-looking young player. Swing and a miss at the first offering. Tucker's 25 years old today. Happy birthday, Tucker.
All right. They'll be filling in for Springer while he's out, along with Marisnik. They're going to have to pick it up. Some of the outfielders.
Runner goes. Throw down by Gomes. They got him. How do you like that? Yan Gomes throws out Altuve. Only the 8th time he's been caught this year, but it took a perfect throw. Watch how he doesn't rush it, though.
Yeah, you know what he did? It's a quick delivery, and it's right on the money, and Altuve slides right into the throw. Here you'll see a caught stealing 2-6. Well done.
Leading the American League in stolen bases, but cut down by Yan Gomes.
Well, that's the 5th guy with Carrasco on the mound that they've been able to catch out of 12. 5 out of 12. That's very good.
Left-handed hitting Preston Tucker was a 7th-round selection by the Astros just 3 years ago. But in his first 3 minor league seasons, he hit 57 home runs.
Well, he has 13 doubles already this year and 154 at-bats. That's pretty good. 4 homers, 19 RBI.
Preston Tucker set a lot of school records at the University of Florida. He left as the school's all-time hit leader. Doubles, RBIs. Hit that hard off the glove of Urshela and into left field for a base hit. So back-to-back singles for the Astros to start the game.
Well, Tucker stayed on that ball nicely and took what Carrasco gave him. It looked like it was a fastball away, and he just stayed on it. And he is almost playing shortstop. It's just that he wasn't playing deep enough. That ball hit sharply. So that'll be another single. So that no-hitter didn't last long, did it, the next time out for Carlos Carrasco, the very first hitter?
Here is Carlos Correa, one of the most talked about young players in the game. He is only 20 years old. 3 years ago, the Astros made him the first overall pick in the draft out of Puerto Rico. He played amateur baseball at the academy down in Puerto Rico and was obviously highly touted coming out. You don't make somebody the number one overall pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, even though there's been a lot of number one picks that haven't panned out, but this guy's played in 25 ball games and he already has 7 home runs. In just over 100 at-bats, 108 at-bats.
Swing and a miss. Think about this. He had 18 career home runs in his first 229 minor league at-bats. But as you take a look at our player profile brought to you by Levin Furniture, he is off to a blazing big league start to his career. 2-1 pitch. Down on the dirt. He went to spring training with the Astros, but was a non-roster invite. I mean, they obviously were looking at him as a guy. They didn't want to rush him. I mean, at 20 years old, there aren't many 20-year-olds anymore that get a chance.
But this guy, as we talked with Alan Ashby, who does their television, they said he's the best player on the field. And I'm sure it was like that every place this kid went. They didn't want to start the clock on him. But they say when he steps out there, he said George Springer may have the most talent, of anybody around. But he says this guy, he steps out on the field and you know he's the best player.
Well, at 6'4", there aren't many shortstops who are taller than Correa. He's the tallest, according to the media guide, in Astros history to play shortstop. Runner goes and a ball fouled third base side. Trying to think back, Cal Ripken he was
about 6'4", yeah. Ripken was he was a big guy, tall guy, shortstop. Rodriguez, Alex, when he first came up.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, physically, this kid looks a little bit like Alex Rodriguez when he first came up.
Well, he's putting up a heck of an at-bat against Carlos Carrasco with 1 on and 1 out here in the first. And the third 3-2 pitch, runner goes again. It's ball 4.
Tell you what, a pretty good take right there. Never facing the guy before, so he draws the walk.
Keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Keep the Astros in the park. They lead the league in home runs. Not only that, Rick, but they also have a major league leading 35 games with multiple homers this year as well. And they have also rung up 45 consecutive games with at least an extra base hit.
They do strike out a lot. There's no question about it. But they can manufacture runs, too. They're also first in stolen bases with 68, even though they were caught earlier in the inning. First in home runs, second in runs scored. They find a way to score when they have to.
Now, you look at this guy alone. You go back to April the 25th. The Astros had played 17 games. And after 17 games, Evan Gattis had 1 RBI. He has 49 since then, and that's the most in the American League over that time frame.
Well, this guy, he's strong, and the ball jumps off his bat. He's a swing and miss guy. He has holes. You remember, he struck out the last 8 times against the Tribe in that series in Houston.
Right back up the middle, and that's through. Tucker coming around third. They'll wave him home. Brantley's throw is not in time. Preston Tucker scores the game's first run, and the Astros lead it 1-0. And Carlos Carrasco is yet to retire a batter.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and he shortened his stroke. Watch this. He used to have a big stroke, but he hits that little two-seamer, takes it right back up the middle. That was a pretty good swing. Short for Evan Gattis from what we're used to seeing, or at least that we saw the last time, and hits it right back up the middle. He'll drive in his 51st run. Houston will play from in front. And I don't know what it is about the Indian starters at home. Their ERA is 2 runs higher in this building than it is when they go out on the road. And for Carrasco, at home, he's 4-4 with a 4.57. He has a 3.29 on the road.
There's Colby Rasmus, left-handed hitter. Takes low ball 1. Well, this is really Jekyll and Hyde when you consider Carrasco's last start on the road. He went 8 2/3 no-hit baseball, and he's given up 3 hits already and walked a batter in the first 4 that he's faced. Fortunate that Altuve was thrown out trying to steal. Double play ball could get him out of the inning. 1-1 to count on Rasmus. This is not the Astros' normal MO with 3 singles in an inning. Usually they swing and miss a lot. Swing for the fences. That's sort of been their offensive modus operandi this year. But here at the outset, as you pointed out, short stroke by Gattis.
Yeah, that was.
Good at bat by Correa working the count.
Tucker took him the other way.
The 2-1. Inside. 3 balls and a strike.
Well, he is definitely having to work hard to get outs.
Fouled right back.
And I know we haven't been here for a while, and we've talked about it a number of times, but how many times have the opposition come up at first at bat and they score in the first inning?
Oh,
and
well,
the Indians are down. I mean, we've talked about it every time we're here.
They've been outscored 25-12 at home in the first inning on the year.
27 out of the 38 games opponents have scored first here. Yeah.
3-2. Hit pretty well to center. Brantley got a late break, and he won't get it. He's going to one-hop the fence and go over for
That's
a ground
break.
rule RBI double. And it's 2-0 Houston. Gattis will get third. Rasmus will be at second base. It's his 27th RBI, his 15th double. And the Astros are putting on a first-inning clinic here.
Tell you what, he smoked this ball. It tricked Brantley. It fooled Brantley. There's a little low two-seamer down, and he smokes it right over the head of Brantley. Brantley sort of froze in his tracks. I don't think he could have got to it anyway, but it bounced over the fence. And a good deal. Not sure if it stayed in, if Gattis would have been able to score. But I'll tell you what, you're already going to get a trip from Mickey Callaway. And Carrasco has not retired a hitter out of the first 5.
No, Chris Carter will be coming to the plate. He's another big swinger who can drive the ball a long way. It just seems that, you know, Rick, from a locating standpoint, Carrasco, he's finding the fat part of the plate, and they're finding it with the fat part of the bat.
Well, yeah, he's fallen behind the guys. 1 of 5 first pitch strikes. But they've hit the ball well. He did walk Correa, and he took him deep in it, and he had a couple of good hacks up there.
So the Indians already down 2-0. And Carrasco yet to retire a batter as Chris Carter steps in.
Well, this is a guy, a strikeout guy. This is the one you want to. Right now, you need a strikeout for an out to keep that guy at third base. Carter struck out 110 times in 272 at bats.
Don't forget Dallas Keuchel's on the mound for Houston.
Yeah, I hear you.
So the Indians bring the infield in. Carter looks down and in, ball one. Fouled off his foot. 1 ball, 1 strike. Carter batting just 195 overall. Hits this one to right field. And a long way back for Moss. Onto the warning track, he makes the catch. Tagging and coming home is Gaddis. Rasmus goes to third. There are 2 down. Carter gets his 41st RBI of the year, and the Astros have a 3-0 lead.
And good fundamental baseball. They get him in with a sacrifice fly to get that big inning going in the first. Make it a 3-run inning. A guy that swings and misses a lot shoots him the other way.
And now Marwin Gonzalez to the plate.
So by rights, that's the first man retired by Carrasco. Altuve was thrown out stealing a base. That was the other out of the inning.
Marwin Gonzalez batting .246 with 5 homers, 18 driven in. He has a dozen doubles. And the pitch outside, ball 1. Little tapper, and it's going to kick foul.
Caught the corner of the grass. Running down the line and kick foul. That would have been a nice one to just stay fair and get that out.
Four hits in the first inning, combined with a walk and 3 runs in. Runner at third with 2 down, and a 1-1 count for Gonzalez. For the year, the Astros have only batted .244 with runners in scoring position, .235 with 2 out. But they have made the most of their opportunities here in the opening frame with a couple of RBI hits and a sac fly. Low and away, 3 balls and a strike, and Carrasco normally doesn't fall behind. But he's been behind a lot here in the opening
1 out of
inning.
7 first pitch strikes. To this point, 32 pitches in the inning. 14 of those 32 have been out of the zone. And the other ones that have been around the zone, they have hit and hit hard.
There's a strike taken all the way. It looked like full count.
Yeah, it did.
Gomes says, give me the fastball, and now time called. In the air. Foul ground And Aviles reaches over
Nope.
and makes the catch and hangs on, or no?
No, it bounced
No.
out. I don't think he ever had it. I saw it bounce away. I mean, he tried to get there. I was going to say slow down because you're going awfully fast trying to make that catch. It was in about the second row. I think he gets leather on it, and watch. It did, right? Oh, my goodness. I didn't know it was like a snow cone.
He had it. Couldn't
He
quite
sure
hold it.
did.
But that's about as hard a play as you can have for a left fielder.
Well, that guy's hands it went by them. He was screening them, too.
And he's running into the railing.
That's what I was concerned about.
Again, the payoff pitch. Popped him up behind the plate. Gomes gives it a look, but can't get to it. "35 pitches in the inning." And this is a team that Carrasco has flat out dominated a few times that he has faced him. 3-2. Ripped, and that's going to be down, and that's going to be extra bases. Another run is in. No, he slams on the brake. Great job by Moss to turn and play that ball quickly. But the damage done as Gonzalez makes it 4-0 Houston. His 19th RBI on the year. 5th hit in the inning.
Well, he hasn't missed any bats. He had a lot of swings and misses in his last start, but tonight it's a different story. He had 30 swings and misses. But, boy, they haven't swung and missed at all tonight.
Well, here's Jason
3
Castro,
times.
the 8th man to bat in the inning. Houston's catcher hitting .211 on the year. The Astros with an extra base hit now in 46 consecutive games with the double by Rasmus, but all the other damage in the inning have been singles.
Yeah, this is a team that's 12th in the league in batting average.
Yeah.
242. They already have 5 hits in the first inning.
This Jekyll and Hyde home and road for the Indians, in particular the pitching staff, is really perplexing. Now the 0-2.
Oh, he had it and stopped.
Swing and a miss. Strikes him out. Ends the inning.
Wouldn't have mattered.
Damage done. Houston with a 4 spot in the forced. The Indians are coming to bat. put up a 4 spot in the first. That's the most the Indians have allowed in a first inning this year. They also gave up 4 at Kansas City back in May. Indians starting lineup brought to you by Progressive. It's Kipnis, Lindor, and Brantley, Rayburn, Santana, and Gomes, Moss, Urshela, and Aviles.
Dallas Keuchel is our Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher. Keuchel on the year, 10-3, making his 18th start, 3 complete games. Out of those 17 starts, 7 times he is not allowed an earned run. 2.03 ERA. He's a ground ball machine. He's walked 31, struck out 102.
There's the pitch now to Jason Kipnis. And it's in there for a strike. Upstairs, he misses 1-1.
He has dominated left-handed batters as well, Matty, at 126 batting average with 4 walks, 29 strikeouts, and 95 at bats.
Misses up again, 2-1. Jason Kipnis has hit in 28 straight home games. Hits that one right at the shortstop Correa. And the youngster shows off the strong arm, 1 away.
Let's check out the Astros defense, brought to you by Chrysler. Behind Keuchel, it looks like this. Rasmus, Marisnik, and Tucker in the outfield. It's Gonzalez, Correa, Altuve, Carter on the infield. Castro doing the catching. They're 6th in the league. They have made 46 errors, turned 76 double plays.
Francisco Lindor, switch hitter. Just 1 out of 12 in the series against Pittsburgh. Two balls, 1 strike. Missed outside with a 3-1. On the year, the Indians, after a loss, have gone 24-18. That's the 3rd best mark in the American League. Slowly chopped to 3rd. Marwin Gonzalez flips it over, 2 down. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. Lowest ERA by Astros pitchers before the All-Star break. How about Mike Cuellar back in 1966 at a 178 earned run average? Did you know that Mike Cuellar was once property of the Indians?
I did not know that. I just remember him with Baltimore. That's where I faced him. But in '66, obviously, he was in Houston, pitching in that dome, that big old. He had a screwball, a curveball.
Cincinnati had a farm club down in Havana in the 50s, and they cultivated a lot of Cuban players. And one of them was Mike Cuellar, and then they lent him to St. Louis, and they lent him somewhere. He was on loan to the Indians. They had his rights.
Okay, I did not know that.
But they shipped him along somewhere else as well. And
he had to know the immortal one, Joe Askew, then.
Probably.
Yeah.
But eventually he wound up in Baltimore, and as you well know, the rest is history. Michael Brantley down on the count 0-2. And strike 3 called. Keuchel goes through him like a hot knife through butter to start. And after an inning, the Astros lead it 4-0.
All season long with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcast stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Jake Marisnick will lead off the second for Houston. He's batting ninth. Takes a strike from Carrasco. The Indians had the bullpen starting to get loose at the end of that first inning, but Carrasco got out of it.
He had a 39-pitch inning. That was a long one.
First ball popped to right field here, and Moss makes the catch, one down. Let's go down to Andre Knott.
Despite the slow start for the Indians tonight, there is some good news for everybody out there. Jason Kipnis has officially been named an all-star. Earlier today, Terry Francona says he should be. I think he's one of the best players in the league, and I think I'm probably not in the minority in that. Jason Kipnis makes his second all-star game.
Well, congratulations
yes,
to
indeed.
Kip.
Congratulations.
Well
he
deserved.
Certainly deserves it, no doubt.
Dallas Keuchel also has been named to the all-star team, and good chance he might start that game, although I don't know how it matches up with days he's throwing on. Altuve shatters the bat, and Lindor throws him out.
Well, let's figure it out.
We figure he'll throw again Saturday.
Let's see here.
So that doesn't work out real good.
Well, game's not till Tuesday. Sunday, Monday, there'll be 3 days rest.
With 2 down, Preston Tucker will be the batter.
Well, that's true.
Tucker singled and scored in that first. Could be him, could be Sonny Gray. He's had a heck of a year. Just a bit high, above the belt. 2-0. There's a strike called, and it's 2-1. Tucker did a nice job his first time up of just bouncing one through the left side of the infield. And that was after Jose Altuve had been caught trying to steal. Carrasco working from behind quite a bit here. The 3-1 pitch. Drilled to center, Brantley. Chasing back. Can't get it. Short hops the wall. And Tucker into second base with a 2-out double. Well, that's a couple of balls that have absolutely hammered to straightaway center field.
You know, when you get a ball hit over your head like that, Rasmus hit one, and now Tucker does. When they hit it like this, it stays in the ballpark. Those are line drives, boy. I don't know if that was a changeup or what away, but it was smoked over the head of Brantley for the second time in as many innings. It's their second double.
He'll bring up Carlos Correa, who had a heck of a bat his first time up, drew a walk. Swing and a miss. Boy, Rick, you know, you mentioned it when I said that he was the first overall pick, and you said how that's not always a guarantee. Not that long ago, remember Tim Beckham, Tampa Bay, first overall pick,
right?
08 shortstop.
There's a lot of times there's guys that go number one that, you know, have failed. More than you would think.
Lindor throws out Correa to end the inning. We'll go to the bottom of the second. It's Houston 4, Cleveland nothing. 4-0, the Astros lead it as we go to the bottom of the second inning. For the Tribe, it will be Ryan Rayburn, Carlos Santana, and Yan Gomes due up. Rayburn, the DH, batting in the cleanup spot tonight.
Keuchel had a 12-pitch first inning, and he averages just about 14.5 pitches per this year, which is very good. But he pitches to contact for the most part. In and out, never the same. He changes speeds. Rayburn thought that pitch was inside.
Down on the dirt, 2-2. Fouled off over the Astros dugout.
See, that's enough to get inside on you, too. That was about 90 miles an hour, and Rayburn trying to maybe take that changeup away, and he think the other way, but he threw the fastball in and coming in again.
And he strikes him out. Back-to-back Ks, one down on the second.
Well, 10,000 fans will get a Carlos Santana bobblehead. That'll be courtesy of Discount Drug Mart on Wednesday, as this will be the third game in the series against the Astros. Just go to Indians.com for your tickets.
In the month of May, 3 different times, Dallas Keuchel gave up 4 runs. Once to the Angels, once to the Blue Jays, once to Baltimore. But then in the month of June, he did not give up more than 4 runs in only 1 start. That was against Seattle. Swing and a miss. And as I mentioned at the outset, he blanked the last 2 foes, the Yankees. He went 9 innings, struck out a dozen shutout baseball. Then he went 8 against Kansas City, struck out 7, did not allow a run. So that's 2 pretty good lineups that he blanked back-to-back starts coming in.
Well, as we heard, he'll bend a little bit, but he never seems to break. You know, you try and get him in trouble, and he always finds a way to keep his team involved or, you know, in the ball game.
He's pitched almost 126 innings, but he's only allowed 88 hits. Santana down on strikes. Well, and that's the thing, Rick. You know, if you're going to score against him, chances are you're not going to string a bunch of hits together.
Yeah, you know, because he can get out of the double play ball. He keeps it on the ground, so he doesn't give up a lot of home runs. He's given up 7 home runs in his 125 or almost 126 innings. So you're not going to come back on him in a hurry if he gets a lead. Like for the Indians right now, down 4-0, it's going to be tough to come back unless you can get 1 an inning or maybe get someone on and somebody hit one. It's just not an easy guy to come back on.
Ball in the dirt. Keuchel did not face the Indians last year, but 2 years ago, he gave up 1 run in 7 innings. But in that same season, the Indians had faced him in April, and they clobbered him. But the problem is with a guy like this, usually if you're going to clobber him, you would have known by now. He's probably not going to fall apart. If he's maybe erratic or he doesn't have it, you'd know early.
Yeah, he's pounding the strike zone.
Gomes shoots one down the right field line. That's a fair ball by plenty as it goes into the corner. Gomes headed to second base, and he'll go in standing with a 2-out double. Very nice approach by Yan Gomes. It's his 5th double of the year, and the Indians have their first hit, first base runner.
Well, Yan Gomes likes to hit left-handers, and he put a good swing on a fastball away. He stayed on it nicely. For Gomes, his 5th double. It's a 2-out double, though, so we'll see if the Indians can get a clutch hit here just to get on the board.
Well, the problem there, as you pointed out earlier, is the left-handers don't have a lot of success normally against Keuchel.
Right. Yep, coming into this game, left-handers hitting just 126. Less than that now when you see Kipnis went down, Brantley went down.
Three on the right side for Moss. Gomes right at the right fielder, Tucker, who went to a knee to make the catch and end the inning. No runs ahead, a man left. After 2, it's the Astros 4 and the Indians nothing. Evan Gattis, Colby Rasmussen, Chris Carter do for Houston. Gattis swings and lines it foul down the left side. Gattis drove in a run on the first. Houston's quantum leap, if you will, this year has really caught everybody by surprise. I think folks thought that they were an improving ball club and thought that they would be better. Maybe, you know, if they could get to 500, it'd be a huge achievement for A.J. Hinch.
That's what everybody was giving him. You're right, 500 would be a great year for him.
But 48 wins in 84 games. Last year, it took 116 games to get to 48 wins. The year before that, it took 144 games to get to 48 wins. The year before that, 150 games to get to 48 wins.
And that's what, you know, they're giving them a little progression, but not as much as they've. Well, you just never know.
Breaking ball got him looking. Good one from Carrasco. Second strikeout, one down here in the third.
Well, he locked him up here. We'll make this our Circle K strikeout. You could see he took it all away, went back to saying, I didn't see that ball. He just froze him. He took it. Second strikeout for Carrasco.
Now Colby Rasmus. One ball, one strike. And again, there's still a half of a season left to go. And the Angels are starting to pick up steam. They've won 3 in a row. Texas has been playing better of late. They're flirting with 500. Seattle's a tough team to figure out. Not sure where they're going to end up. They're a lot like the Indians.
They can't hit. They're having a tough time hitting consistently.
And they just seem to, like Cleveland, they'll get close to 500,
right,
but then they kind of fall back.
Yes, they do.
Robinson Cano has been a mystery. He can't get going, and that's a key guy for their offense.
Well, you pay him like they paid him, and yeah, he has to hit for you, no question.
Now Lindor gave it a game effort but couldn't get to it, and it'll be a bloop single for Rasmus.
Rasmus now 2 for 2. That was just in no man's land. Couldn't have threw it out there any better. 3 on the one side. The only one with a chance, Lindor. Nice effort, but not going to get there. It's already 7 hits for Houston.
So 1 on, 1 out for Chris Carter, who drove in a run with a sacrifice fly in the first inning.
Boy, you talk about feast or famine for Carrasco. After Houston hitters get to a 1-0 count, they're 6 for 6 when Carrasco starts out behind them. When they're 0-1, they're 1 for 6.
Just goes to show you why strike one is so important.
It is important. I mean, we're saying it now because he's given up and he's struggling in this start, but I guess it does make a difference.
Nick Hagan on up and ready. Carrasco is about to make his 60th pitch. Swing and a miss. Carter down on strikes and quickly. Third strikeout for Carrasco, 2 down here in the inning. Well, here's a question for you. How much of a difference does 19 pitches make? Because for Carlos Carrasco, he made 19 more pitches in his last start than he did in his previous 2 starts. Does that have any impact coming into today?
I don't know. I was thinking about that. I really don't know. After coming off an emotional game that he pitched, having a chance for a no-hitter. I mean, I'm sure his work on the side was the same, but emotionally coming out, I don't know if that has an impact. You can only ask him.
If he was pitching well, we'd be saying, well, he's riding the crest of momentum from his last start. But he's pitching poorly, and so you look at it and say, well, maybe he overextended himself. Maybe he's emotionally tapped out. I don't know.
I don't either. I wasn't a pitcher. I couldn't answer that. Coming off a start like he had where it was his best start he's ever made, to now it's not a very good one, right from the outset.
I mean, give the Astros their due. But obviously not the same Carrasco here early on.
Well, no, and he was 2-0. I mean, we expected a great pitching matchup. Well, so far it's only held up on the one side.
And he's 2-0 to Marwin Gonzalez, who tacked on a big run in that first inning with a 2-out RBI single to right field. Slowly chopped up the middle. Kipnis can't get it. And everybody's safe. Rasmus to second. They give him a base hit.
Well, it's just a routine ground ball. If Kipnis gets it and flips it, he just doesn't catch it. That's a gift there. That's a play that should be made.
Catcher Jason Castro will bat with 2 on and 2 out here in the third.
Well, I do remember one thing, though. When, in his last start, when we were talking about it, he came right out of the chute in that first inning and had an unbelievable slider. And he was on his game with everything, sharp, crisp. You know, today, searching. You know, that little two-seamer, he fell behind some hitters. You give up a base hit. You throw out the leadoff hitter, but he wasn't as crisp, wasn't as sharp. Now, don't ask me how it happens. You don't go out there every time with great stuff. I know that.
That's out of play. And it's 1-1.
He's a guy that has swing and miss stuff. Tonight, not so much.
And once again, it's happened here at home.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have a hard time understanding.
Chased one. Good pitch by Carrasco. Took something off. And ball was sinking out of the strike zone. And a count 1-2 on Castro. Got one of the best in the league.
There you go. 5th.
Well, those are the same 5 guys that are leading the league in strikeouts, period. 1-2.
Yeah. Back. Speaking of, Sale gets a chance to go tonight for 8 straight double-digit strikeouts. He's matched up against his former teammate, Mark Burley, in Toronto. Well, against Toronto. They're in Chicago.
The 1-2. Strike 3 called, ends the inning. Carrasco strikes out 3 in the third, 4 in the ball game, but the Astros lead it 4-0. Four 0, the Astros lead it. Bottom of the third will be Giovanni Urshela, Mike Aviles, and Jason Kipnis due for the Tribe. Outside corner, a strike called. had his 13-game hitting streak stopped yesterday in Pittsburgh. He had one hit in all 13 of those games. And he ropes one down the left field line, headed for the corner. He's going for extra bases. And he'll go in sliding with a leadoff double. It's his first double on the year.
Well, he picked on a hanging changeup. He left it up, Keuchel did, and it speeds up his bat, and he pulled it down the line. See, they want that one away. It stayed middle of the plate, and he took advantage of it. So for his very first double, he got a nice changeup. The leadoff double. Now let's see if the Tribe can get on the board here and cut into that 4-0 lead.
Mike Aviles. Low and away, 2-0. Boy, already rained out in Kansas City.
I see that.
Royals and Tampa Bay washed out by Mother Nature.
Some tornado warnings in the Kansas City area.
There's a strike call.
That's
it's 2-1.
The changeup he wanted to throw to Urshela.
And Mike swings and fouls it off. It's 2-2. And a ground ball single into left field. Urshela broke back towards second base. He'll stop at third. And the Indians have back-to-back hits here in the third inning. Their first two are aboard.
Well, it's exactly what you have to do as a base runner. Make sure the ball goes through. You're down 4 runs. You can only advance one base there. Mike Aviles does a nice job getting that curveball down. He found the hole. A lot of times you pull that ball at the third baseman, but he got it between short and third. So it's back-to-back hits now, and the Indians with a real good opportunity in this inning. First 2 men on, nobody out. Back up to the top of the order.
And Indians all-star second baseman Jason Kipnis just named to the all-star squad officially a little while ago. Be a good time to keep his home hit streak alive. Swung on and missed. Jason with a 28-game progressive field streak that dates back to May 1st. Hits this one a long way, left field. Back is Rasmus, still going back and pulls it down, shy of the warning track. Urshela will tag and score. The Indians are on the board. It's Kipnis with his 36th run batted in on the year, and it's a 4-1 ball game. Let's go down to Andre Knott.
You know, for Jason Kipnis, he makes his second all-star team, and we found that out today. And before the game, he talked about the difference of last year compared to his 2 all-star seasons.
It's a lot more fun going through 2013 and 2015 than it was in 2014. It lets me know that I'm back to where I need to be, back to getting better each time, to having the type of season that I can have, a productive one, to where we've always worded it, being part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Well, he definitely has been that and more this year. Francisco Lindor once again works himself into a good hitter's count now. Can he take advantage of it? Grounded to third his first time up.
Well, just don't get greedy. Try and take what Keuchel's going to give you. Look for something away and shoot that hole. I think sometimes, with Keuchel, he's throwing 90, 91. Changes speeds. Hitters, sometimes you can pick them up, I'm sure, but you get greedy. You try and do more than you're capable of instead of just trying to take a nice little base hit and keep it going. The bigger swing you take off this guy, the better he is against you. Because he never gives in. He keeps it down. He keeps it low. And he's got good movement on his pitches. Another good count to hit in if you're Lindor. Again, 2-0. He went away with a fastball. Now it's a changeup. 3-1. But he hits the hole.
He punches it perfectly through the right side of the infield. Avila stops at second.
That's exactly what I was talking about. And he was shooting it that way and got the changeup this time. Totally different than the 2-0 pitch where it was a fastball. So he stayed back enough, and you can see that ball wasn't hit hard at all. But with him holding the runner on first base and they're playing him up the middle for a double play, that's an easy base hit right there. That's all you need. Even though Aviles can only go up one base, now you have runners at first and second, and you keep the rally going.
And now we'll see if Michael Brantley can deliver. He struck out his first time up. But 2 on, 1 out, a run already in. Yeah, Brantley does some of his best work in the clutch. A .355 average with runners in scoring position. And he takes a strike. Here's our great clip of the game from yesterday. Michael Brantley shoots one the other way. Driving home Jason Kipnis as the Indians ran out to an early 3-0 lead against the Pirates, but couldn't hold it.
That was the big one. That gave them their 3-0 lead, that hit.
Trying to battle back from a 3-run deficit now. Brantley shoots one high in the air, shallow center. Marisnik makes the catch, 2 down. They were down 4 before Kipnis with the RBI sac fly got Giovanni Urshela home.
Well, the Indians have to do right now what the Pirates did yesterday. You keep putting zeros on the board if you're Cleveland, and you're there. If you're Cleveland, and then offensively, you got to find a way to get yourself back into this game.
Well, the Pirates did it with one big inning, and a lot of it, well, at least some of it, came with 2 outs. Rayburn a swing and a miss. One ball, one strike.
Pretty good hitter with 2 outs. Runners in scoring position. 7 for 19. They need one here.
Back out of play. Two on, 2 out on the 1-2 pitch. Just missed inside, and the count evens up.
Boy, tried to make that perfect pitch on the inside corner and just missed off the dish. But that's how you do it as a pitcher. You go in for that strikeout. You try to make the perfect pitch inside. If you miss, fine. If the hitter wants to swing at it, you can jam them a lot of times.
Went inside again. Rayburn pulled the hands in, tried to shoot it down the line, but foul.
That's just about all you can do with that pitch is pull it foul if you're going to hit it hard. The longer you wait on it, it'll jam you. So you got to try and get the barrel head of the bat out, and what you do, you hit it hard, but you hit it foul.
Tying run at the plate. Rayburn awaits the 2-2 offering from Keuchel. And he goes down hacking to end the inning. Indians get on the board after 3. It's the Astros 4 and the Indians 1. As we go to the 4th inning, Hadley Murphy with Mom Leah checking out her first Indians game.
What's she have in that bottle?
That's called go-go juice.
Yeah.
Go get 'em. Jake Marisnick, the leadoff for Houston. He flied to right his only time up.
Again, they're falling behind in the count.
Now the 2-0 is low and away, 3 balls, no strikes. Again, I think it's Hagedorn who's up again.
It's been one of those games where they've been up every inning from the very first inning. You know, and you just wonder how much longer he's going to hang around with Carrasco.
Finds his zone, 3-1 the count. Borderline call, goes Carrasco's way, full count. And that's blipped into right center field for a base hit. So Marisnick is aboard. That's the 9th hit of the game already for the Astros. The AT&T U-verse rewind back in the first inning.
It was a rough one for Carrasco. Evan Gattis bangs an RBI single up the middle, and Colby Raskus crushes one to straightaway center. That drove in a run. It was a double. Chris Carter had a sac fly, and then Marwin Gonzalez yanked one down into the right field area for another RBI. 4 runs in the first as the Astros sent 8 men to the plate. Now to the top of the order, and Jose Altuve, who is 1 for 2 on the night. Hit hard to third. Urshela goes to second. There's one on to first. Santana scoops it out for a double play. Kipnis was upended by Marisnik at second, but he got enough on it to turn 2.
Boy, you don't think you're going to get to when you have Altuve up there. Let's see, that ball got to his backhand side. He gets rid of it quickly. Altuve didn't get a really good jump out of the box, but it's picked up by Santana nicely. They get the double play. Well done.
And so with 2 away, Preston Tucker, the batter. No manager is enthralled with the idea of having to get into your bullpen early in a game when you're starting a 4-game series. No off days through the weekend. But for Terry Francona, the one saving grace, if he has to go to his bullpen earlier than usual tonight, it's that it's a fairly well-rested bullpen because of that 4-game stretch in Tampa, and because they pitched really, the Stars pitched really well in Pittsburgh, too.
Yes, you're right. If you have to have it, I mean, you don't want to, but sure, you're right. They're not going through that stretch like they did at one time this year where the starters were out early.
Yeah.
They're rested, and you can do some work, and even though it's a 4-game series, you would expect,
I mean, obviously,
they're ready for it.
Yesterday was the one exception where Salazar got knocked out in the middle of that game, but as a whole, it's a bullpen that, for the most part, should be able to take on some added innings. 2-2 the count. The 2-2. Uh-oh, that's hit a long way. And Preston Tucker has just left the yard.
Tell you what, the ball jumps off his bat, doesn't it?
It's his 5th home run of the season, and he is 3 for 3 on the night.
He's a triple shy of the cycle.
And it's 5-1 Houston.
Last time up, he smoked that ball to straightaway center. He got the barrel head of the bat out, and it jumped off his bat. So they come back and respond in a hurry. Looked like a changeup.
He went down to a knee and hit that.
Yes, he did, because he kept his hands back. That was a pretty swing. Changeup down.
Well, Dave Hudgens, who is the Astros hitting coach, and then Alan Zinter, their assistant hitting coach, both who have history ties to the Indians organization. They've got to be thrilled with the way their guys have come out swinging the bats here tonight.
No question.
Only one Astros starter has not, figured in the scoring, so to speak, and that's Castro, who has struck out both times up. Everybody else has at least had a hit, they've driven a run, or scored a run.
Yep. Well, they've had opportunities. They're going through for the 3rd time already. We're in the 4th inning.
Carlos Correa walked and scored a run in the first. Carlos Carrasco is trying to figure out what has gone wrong besides just about everything tonight. Sometimes pitching, I'm sure for those guys, it's a mystery.
You know, some nights you go out there and you can literally throw it wherever you want it within a centimeter of your target. And then other days go like this one. 5-0 Houston, middle of the fourth. Injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Astros have not been immune to the injury bug. George Springer, another one of their very talented young players, fractured his wrist. I think he did diving for a ball in center field, or was he hit by a pitch? I can't remember. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a key guy that they're really missing right now.
Jed Lowry may be coming back here in the near future, but he's got no spot at short left. The kid took it over. He may have to scoot over to third base.
Carlos Santana looks at a curveball for ball one. Yeah, I think he's going to have a tough time winning that spot back.
No, he's not. It's gone. You got Wally pipped.
Santana with a line drive single into left field, and the Indians get their leadoff man aboard for the second inning in a row.
Hit number 5 for the Indians. And there's one right there. Pretty much a fastball down the middle, and Santana took advantage of it. Lined it into left field. His first hit. He's 1 for 2.
Yan Gomes shot a double down the right field line his first time up. And a foul right into the chest protector of Castro.
Mask. Little wake-up call.
Started him off with a fastball. Then comes the changeup. Fouled back, 0-2.
He's got the stuff he throws, that fastball, as we said, 90-91. He throws either that cutter or hard slider at 88 that he can throw in or away. And then he can throw that curveball down. He's got an excellent changeup, but the command with all of the pitches are what really make him.
And he's got a phenomenal beard.
It was
swing and a miss. Gomes down on strikes. That's 5 Ks for Keuchel. You don't see many beards like that.
Well, it's another Sugardale Dollar Dog Night. The Indians open up a weekend series with Oakland. That'll be Friday. Stick around and enjoy the Trans Am Rock fireworks presented by Wayside Furniture after the ball game. Just visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Moss fouls one off his foot. Dallas Keuchel was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The 0-1. Foul out of play to the left. Keuchel was born on New Year's Day, so he's baby New Year. Mom said that every Christmas he would ask for money so he could buy the latest pair of sneakers that were out there.
Yeah. Well, that's when they could afford them. He had to become a big league pitcher to afford those sneakers now. Be a tough birthday to forget, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
January 1st.
You'd have to go around waking everybody up.
Everybody's
and going,
hung over
wake
on
up,
your
let's
birthday.
Go. Come on,
I
my
know,
birthday.
he's the first one up.
Like, oh, jeez. The 1-2 in tight.
There you go. Fear the beard. Look at that. Houston hat. What is that other hat? That can't be a Pirate hat.
Looks like a Pirates hat. He's got a Montreal Expos jersey on, though. It's by the bag and fair. Carter couldn't get to it.
Hit the
and
chair.
Coming around
Keep
third,
coming.
Santana's going to be waved home. He's going to score. On his way to third goes Moss. He is safe. Brandon Moss with an RBI triple. And it's a 5-2 ball game. It hit the stool that the ball boy's sitting on down the right field line, and it just kind of stopped.
Well, it's in play as long as it didn't hit him. That's the thing. It hit the stool. He was smart. He got up off of it, and he left. And watch it. It hits and it kicks back to the infield. That enabled Santana to come around and score. Here it comes. It just kicks right back out into play. So Santana all the way from first base scores, and it's a one-out triple by Moss, and that's a nice hit right there because now you've got a man on third and less than 2 outs. He's looking for a ground rule double, but that's in play, Dallas. It didn't hit a person. It's in play.
Now Giovanni Urshela will try to get Moss home from third and cut the gap to a couple of runs.
Well, this is what you need. You need to get this one home. Even though they responded after the Indians got on the board, they could come back and answer it again.
A called strike on a borderline pitch. It's 0-1. Urshela doubled the left and scored the Indians' first run in the third inning. Boy, Rick, a lot of times when a guy's holding a runner at first base, tough to get a ball by a first baseman. Somehow, Moss hit that hard enough that Carter just couldn't get any leather on it.
Well, it's almost like when he was taking that step, I don't know if his momentum carried him or what. It was a fair ball, but it went off his glove. Didn't get a good look at it.
Low and away.
Yeah, the infield back, they're going to give you this run.
Take another look at this. You said he got leather on it?
Yeah, I thought he did.
I don't know. Maybe he did.
It either hit the bag or I thought he got leather on it.
1-2 pitch.
Hard
up and
to
away.
tell. Hard to tell, though.
I think it fooled him, though. I thought he looked like he put the glove down as if, I've got this. And then the next thing you know, he's looking down the right field line. Astros conceding the run. If Urshela can bang the ball on the ground, get that run home from third. Just missed outside, and a full count.
Well, look where the catcher's set up. He's off the plate. His glove's on it. His glove had to go out. He tried to frame it. His body was on the plate, but the glove was off. If you took a peek.
Ball 4.
Good at bat. First walk of the night for Keuchel.
Rick, it looked like he just did not want to give in to Urshela and give him anything that he could pull after what he did to him his first time up. And he just kept going outside, away, trying to get Urshela to maybe roll over or chase, but he wouldn't do it.
Most of the time you get hitters to swing at that 2-2 pitch that he laid off. You know, I think he can accept that he made a bad pitch to him the first time up. He left a changeup up. But he didn't want to give up that run, and now he does have a double play in order. He is a ground ball pitcher, so he's just one pitch away from getting out of it. But Avila's got to make him get that ball up. He got a base hit off him the last time to get, and Avila's pulled a curveball between short and third. Or Urshela could just move up a base.
Right back up the middle. Correa
Taylor made.
Steps on a bag, throws to first, and an inning-ending double play. The Indians get a run back. Moss with the RBI triple, but it's 5-2 Houston after 4. Is brought to you by your Northern Ohio Honda dealers, by the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Now the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen is for left-hander Nick Hagedorn. He comes on in relief of Carlos Carrasco, who went 4 innings and allowed 5 runs on 10 hits.
Yeah, the story of the night for Carrasco is when he fell behind the hitter and Houston got into a 1-0 count or better. They were 8 for 10. A walk, a sacrifice fly after that first pitch. So that's what hurt him tonight. Now the bullpen has to go out there and put some zeros on the board. Still a 3-run deficit, 5-2, but a lot of baseball left.
Over the last 2 months, Nick Hagedorn has compiled an earned run average of 3.31. Ball bouncing around like a pinball. Then again, when this guy hits him, you can understand why. out of play.
Gaddis, the guy when he was with Atlanta, did a little catching, played some left field, but basically a DH here in Houston.
The 0-2 pitch.
Yes, he did.
The appeal, he didn't go, says
It was
first
close.
base umpire Dana DeMuth, who is the crew chief.
He had that body moving like he wanted to spin on it, but he was able to hold it up, take a peek from the side. He's so strong. I mean, it's not easy to check your swing and hold your bat back like that. And it seems like once he gets started, he can't stop, but he did that time.
And he chased one up around the letters. He got to it, but fouled it back.
He doesn't get cheated either, does he?
No.
He takes a healthy cut. No batting gloves. Goes a little old school. Give me a little dirt. Let me rub it in my hands and get after it.
Down in the dirt. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Swung out and missed. He raised that fastball finally to a spot where Gaddis couldn't get to it.
Good job. Keep climbing that ladder.
In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. It was an ugly first inning for Carlos Carrasco. The Astros jumped all over him. 5 hits in the inning. 3 of them were RBI hits. A sac fly, and it was 4-0. Indians have scored twice. A sac fly by Kipnis, an RBI triple by Moss. But they still trail it 5-2. In addition to the 4-run first, Preston Tucker homered in the 4th for Houston. And a foul out of play. Houston Astros, the surprise team. Really, I think you'd have to say in all of baseball, what they've accomplished to this point under A.J. Hinch.
Yeah, you don't know how it's going to play out, but you're right. Going into the All-Star break, they have been, no question, the surprise.
I mean, Minnesota is certainly a surprise as well.
Yes, I agree. But these guys, for the last few years, and people are saying, well, they're not going to continue to do this because they strike out too much or they don't do this. But I'll tell you what, after not seeing him, we saw him the very first series of the year. I can see different swings in these guys already.
Well, Rick, it's easy to sit back and say, well, they're not going to continue to do this. When it's 81 games into the year, at what point? Well, it's actually for them, it's more than that. They've played. They're 80. This is game 85 for Houston.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at what point do you say, oh, maybe this is for real?
Well, it is for real. Get used to it. I don't think they're going to collapse. You have to weather a few storms, but doesn't everybody, when you go through a complete baseball season, every team goes through their maybe 2 weeks to a month of a struggle. You can have a bad month, but consistent baseball, which they have played.
What's really interesting is you look at, A.J. Hinch at 40 years old. He's the youngest guy on the entire coaching staff.
Yeah.
But he's surrounded by guys who have great experience. Trey Hillman's been a big league manager.
Dave Hudgens and Zinner, we've talked about the hitting coaches. Brent Strom, who you played with, is 66. He's a longtime pitching coach. Richie Dower, who played for many, many years with the Baltimore Orioles. He's early 60s and a wealth of baseball knowledge. Gary Pettis, another guy with a lot of experience as a player and a coach. So, I mean, so yes, A.J. Hinch is young in terms of, pedigree and managerial experience.
He's got a nice staff.
He's surrounded by a lot of good people.
Yes, he does, right. And you look at their numbers on the breakdown, they're 5 games over in their own division. They're 6 games, 22-16. They've dominated the National League. They're 8-1. In the Central, they've had their toughest time in the Central Division of the American League. They're 7-9.
Well, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Indians to start the year. And again, this is a 4-game series here in Cleveland.
Yeah, this is strange. Usually you'll play a team within the next 2 weeks after you play them the first time. We opened the season up with them the first 3 games, and now, right before we get into the All-Star break, we're wrapping up our season with Houston. So you got to see a tale of 2 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
One that was coming out, and I don't think you knew what to expect, nor did they, at the time of the season. I mean, they had high hopes. Well, you know what? Those hopes are still very high for them.
Keuchel was actually better when we saw him in the opener than he has been tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But the Astros' offense has been a lot better tonight.
A big inning has killed the Indians the last 2 days. 5-run inning yesterday, a 4-run first today before they even stepped to the plate.
Hagedorn spears it, throws to first, inning over. So the big left-hander comes out of the bullpen, strikes out a pair, holds the Stros off the board. Middle of the 5th, 5-2 Houston. Friends, and catch a game at the new Corner Bar. It's open to all fans of Progressive Field. $13 district tickets presented by Sports Time Ohio are going quickly, so get yours today. Tickets available only at Indians.com/district ticket. Jason Kipnis will lead it off here for Cleveland. Drove in a run with a sac fly in the 3rd. And a pitch in for a strike. One and one to count. Since 2013, the Indians have gone 13-4 against the Astros. The best record against an opponent in the league is the Angels against the Tigers. You believe the Angels have gone 14-3 against Detroit over the last couple of years?
They've had their number.
Bounce down in the dirt. The Indians have also done a number on the Rangers, 14-5 against Texas last couple of years. But they're fighting uphill tonight, trying to make a comeback run against Dallas Keuchel. He's at 75 pitches on the night. This will be number 75 right here. Breaking ball yanked into center field by Kipnis. Marisnick cuts it off, and he'll hold Jason to a long leadoff single.
Keep that hitting streak going. That a boy, Kip.
29 in a row here at Progressive Field, and it's the third straight inning the Indians had their leadoff man aboard.
Caught a breaking ball, and he keeps his hands back so well. And, I mean, makes it look easy. It's not that easy to do, but hit a nice at-bat in his last at-bat to hit the sacrifice fly. So, 29 gamer.
He's chasing Hal Trosky now.
Find out on Wednesday.
Francisco Lindor. He got a fastball that time away and couldn't put it in play.
Yeah, he slapped that changeup, last time up with the first base open. I think it was the Vilas on first base.
Yeah, with the big hole on the right side.
It's the same situation.
But this time it's right at the second baseman and a tailor-made double play.
Straight double play. He knows how to get the ground ball, boy. One pitch away from it.
Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt, Rick, let's head to Minnesota where the Orioles taking on the Twins. Baltimore was up 1-0. Torrey Hunter in the bottom of the first, his 13th homer of the year to tie it. And then another homer for the Twins in the second inning. 2-1 now. Minnesota leads Baltimore. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. Here's Michael Brantley. Brantley 0 for 2. He has struck out, flied out. Pulls it foul. Hit the bag. Carter with a bare hand grab. High toss to Keuchel, but he beats Brantley to the bag.
Oh, not a bad play at all.
Just a routine ho-hum 3-1 putout to end the inning. 5 complete. The Astros in front, 5-2.
Well, you talk about a good bounce. Michael Brantley hits this ball. It hits the base, goes up in the air. Carter's able to stay with it. Keuchel covering, gives the flip. It sort of messes up the momentum of that play, but it's still well done to get the out, and they get Brantley at first for the final out of that inning. That took a pretty true hop to him.
Castro has punched out twice tonight. And Hagedorn deals, it's fouled back.
You know, you look at the starting rotation and their ERA under Terry Francona since he's been here in 2013 when they've been at home. They had a 3.55 ERA. Last year they had a 3.49. And it's a 5.43 this year, home under Terry. This year, though, they're 3.44 on the road, where they were 4.31 and 4.17 to 2 previous years. So it's completely backwards. And I don't know how to figure it out. I don't know if he does.
I don't think he does.
I mean, what are you going to do? Usually.
I mean, I don't think. My point is, I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think there's something you say, oh, well, if we just fix this,
right,
then they'll be fine.
Right.
Just one of those goofy things.
Yeah, where most pitchers or your starters are struggling at home and they pitch better on the road.
Line drive base hit in the right field for Castro, so he has a hit now. So every Astros starter has reached safely in the ball game here tonight. Let's go down to Andre as Terry Francona is going to go make a pitching change.
You guys were talking last inning about the confidence that this Astros team has and how it's been the surprise of baseball. Well, confidence is the name of the game for them. And they came out, and despite losing 2 or 3 versus the Indians to start the season, they were 15-7 in April. Now, I've heard you guys have this debate a million times up in the booth about getting off to great starts. But Terry Francona said it himself. He goes, that great start in April has changed their season. They were 16-13 in May, 15-14 in June. First time since 2001 this team has had 3 months in a row where they've been over 500.
Andre, I would offer this, and this isn't necessarily to debate anything you just said, but I think for a team like Houston, who's had sand kicked in their face for the last several years, very important to get off to a good start for their confidence. If you've got a team that has some veterans, has some guys who've been to the playoffs, maybe not as important because they know how long the season is. They know what it takes, where you need to be. They know when to kick it in, maybe. Yeah. No, but for a young team, wow, you can't overestimate how important this has been for them.
It's a great point. I agree with you completely. The other thing is they're like that in games too, guys. When you look at it, they get the lead first. There's something like 33-9 this season when they get the lead first. Confidence is what's gotten them here. Now, will that confidence last 3 more months is a question.
I think it will, because they're a young team that started the year, but they're getting younger. And what they did, they went out and they signed some guys, that could, bullpen experience.
Andre's right. They are 33-9 when they score first. Here's the other thing, too, Rick. The only thing that people are waiting to see is what happens if they lose 5-6 in a row. If they drop 10 out of 12. If they go through a skid, will the youth then rear its head and will panic set in? That's the one thing that I suppose people are wanting to see.
Someone's going to have to put pressure on them in that division. And who's good enough to do it? Are the Angels? I mean, I know they have Trout and Pujols is having a heck of a year, but is that pitching good enough to give them a run for their money? That's what you're going to see if someone puts pressure on them, another ball club.
Or let me put it this way. Is the Astros pitching good enough to avoid a prolonged slump?
Who knows?
When you've got the guy who's leading the league in ERA out there every 5 days, he should keep them out of any prolonged losing streaks, you would think.
The way he's pitched to this point, yes, you would think so. But
kind of like Corey Kluber a year ago. I mean, with Corey Kluber, the Indians didn't have the long droughts where they couldn't get a win, and that's.
Well, and then he got some help in the second half. That's when the Indians took off and played better, was the second half.
Yep. Well, Austin Adams is on now for Cleveland in relief of Nick Hagedorn. Adams trying to keep the Indians in this thing. They're down 3 runs. We're in the 6th inning. Houston has their leadoff man aboard. Jake Marisnick with a bunt. Adams, bare hand grab, fires to first. And he gets Marisnick on the sacrifice, one away. Nice job by Adams to come off the mound, field his position well.
Yeah, he did. But, that's sort of, middle of the ball game. Here's your number 9 hitter. He laid down a nice sacrifice bunt. I'm almost thinking he wanted a base hit. That looked like more of a bunt for a base hit than a sacrifice, but he gets his job done, gets the runner into scoring position, and gives Altuve and Tucker an opportunity to score another run.
Altuve 1 out of 3 on the night. The one hit was an infield single back in the first. He's not a big guy, but I tell you what, he's not swinging any toy bat either. That's a big piece of lumber he's flipping around up there.
Well, he will find a way to get the barrel of the bat to the ball. He goes up there and look at that.
Wow, that is scorched.
There's
and
not
off the base of the wall for an RBI double as Altuve extends the Astros lead to 6-2. It's his second hit of the night, his 16th double and his 36th run batted in.
I don't care how hard you throw. This guy's going to get the barrel of the bat to the ball. Look at that. It was right down the middle, and you can't put it there with this guy. He goes up there to hit. He doesn't take anything. So Altuve makes it a 6-2 game. That run is charged to Hagedorn.
Now Preston Tucker, who's 3 for 3 with a single, a double, and a home run. And he takes ball 1. It's up high.
You talk about Altuve, and he goes up. He's got 4 at-bats tonight. Seen 8 pitches. If he sees it, he swings.
Well, like you said, if you throw it over the plate or in the vicinity, he's going to get the barrel to it. Might ground out, might hit into a double play.
Yep.
He's done that tonight.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He can also.
He will hit it. And a lot of times he hits it hard. Here's a kid that's had a great night to this point.
Well, we've heard so much, and understandably so, about George Springer, about Carlos Correa. But Preston Tucker, he's not one of the headline-grabbing young prospects, but he certainly has an opportunity to make a name for himself now. Again, he was a 7th-round pick 3 years ago.
Well, he's a triple shy of the cyclone. This is not a triples ballpark.
And that's in the gap. Coming around third, Altuve will score as Avila's throw goes to second. And the Astros with 2 home here in the 6th. Now lead it 7-2.
Just another solid base hit here by Tucker.
He's 4 for 4 on the
4
night.
for 4, a couple of RBIs.
Carlos Correa 0 for 2 and walked and scored back in the first.
Yeah, they have outscored their opponents. Houston has this year by 62 runs in the run differential.
Correa jammed, rolls it to short. Lindor goes to second for 1 on to first, not in time. Ball just didn't get to Lindor quick enough to turn 2 there. So with 2 down, it'll keep the inning alive for Evan Gattis. Evan Gattis is a story in perseverance, if ever there was one. Coming out of high school, he said he was admittedly terrified of playing big-time college baseball at Texas A&M. Went to a JUCO and played for a year. Then he spent 3 years driving around the country living out of his car. He's had all kind of jobs, a janitor, a cook, a valet, a ski lift operator. Fouled back out of play. He had some substance abuse issues that he had to get over, get past. And then an offer to resume his baseball career came along in Oklahoma. And eventually it all came together. But it was certainly no overnight success story. In his first pro season in 2011, he won the batting title in the Sally League. The next year, he hit 18 homers and drove in 74.
Good start.
I mean, he just looks like a lumberjack when he's up there at the plate.
Yeah,
he leaves nothing to the imagination when he turns that bat loose.
Well, he doesn't. I mean, when you look at a baseball player, it doesn't look like a baseball player in a uniform, but he's a strong guy and he can hit a baseball hard.
When he was in Atlanta, reportedly he picked up the nickname El Oso Blanco, the White Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what, that's kind of what he looks like when he swings that
I love
bat,
it.
too.
I love that nickname. He's paying a lot of attention to a guy on first base with 2 outs and 2 strikes in a 7-2 game.
Wow, he is really keeping an eye on Correa. Now the 1-2, Correa takes off, and Gattis hits the hole. Perfectly placed base hit in the right field, and Correa goes all the way to third. Astros at the corners with 2 down. Rick, they have put on an absolute clinic the way they've swung the bats tonight. They have not looked like the all-or-nothing swing for the fences team that they've been billed as.
That's right. They have 14 hits. They have just 4 extra base hits, the 3 doubles, the home run. But, boy, there you go. Well, with 2 strikes, you can see him hitting behind the runner. Evan Gattis had a big swing earlier in the year. He shortened it up and hit nice line drive stroke right there. It's 4 hits in the inning, but 14 hits here. We're in the 6th inning. They have got not only hits, they're putting on a clinic base running. They're doing it all offensively today.
Colby Rasmus doubled in a run in the first. He singled in the third, struck out his last time up.
Carrasco allowed 5. Hagedorn has given up 1. Now Adams has allowed a run. And that ball's hit into center field. Another run comes home. It's 8-2 Houston. Gaddis stops at second.
Yeah, the route is on. Colby Rasmus gets down there. Got down on the trademark a little bit. Not hit perfectly, but falls in for a base hit. 5 hits in the inning. 15 on the night. It's an 8-2 ball game. Still 2 runners on. And the big man Carter coming to the plate.
Mickey Callaway calling the bullpen to get another arm up.
Yeah, this is something when you get a chance to come in, and you says that they may be in good shape today if they have to go to their bullpen. But when one of your bullpen guys comes in and starts getting hit around. It's one of those nights where you say, uh-oh, the phone's ringing. I hope it's not me because they're swinging it too well.
Pretty good pitch. I don't know. It called a ball. The other thing, too, Rick, is, I pointed out that, okay, had a pretty good stretch with your starters there, so the bullpen should be fresh. It's also game 82. So everybody's looking at that All-Star break. Everybody's dragging a little bit.
You would think so.
There's a strike call, and it's 1-1. Threw it right by him at 97, and that's 1-2. Right-hander Jeff Manship now getting loose in the Tribe pen. Austin Adams with a 1-2 to Carter. Two balls, 2 strikes. Out of play, up right side, upper deck. Chris Carter, 4 homers shy of Richard Hidalgo for 7th place on the Astros homer list. Foul right back. Swing and a miss. Got him the chase. Inning over. Astros tack on 3 more. Middle of the 6th. They lead it 8-2.
15,000 fans will receive a Sandy Alomar jersey, courtesy of Medical Mutual. That'll take place Saturday. Plus, post-game fireworks will be set to the 80s music after the Tribe will take on the Oakland A's at 6:35. That's right, 6:35 Saturday. Mark it down. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
I think I have to mark it down.
That's what I was telling you. That's what I was talking to. You. Mark it down, 6:35. Hey, you. I'm going to write it down on your hand.
I was noticing we have a trip coming up where we go to Oakland.
In L.A.
Thursdays at 7 o'clock. Fridays at 6:30. Saturdays at 6. Sundays at 1.
Really?
4 games.
Okay,
4
that's
different
Oakland.
times.
Yeah.
7, 6:30, 6, 1.
We just want to get them started in Oakland.
The 1-1. And a strike call to Rayburn.
I'm glad you told me that because I haven't looked that far ahead.
Rayburn 0 for 2. He has struck out twice. Missed inside. Out of play.
Keuchel, guy we told you, I mean, a ground ball pitcher. The double play ball has helped him in the last 2 innings. After the Indians already had one in the 4th inning, runners on first and third, he got the double play to get out of that inning. And then after the base hit last inning to lead it off, he got the double play ball to follow.
Just missed in off the plate, full count. Wow, look out. Andre, did you duck?
He got it. He's safe. We got thumbs up.
Whew.
He's okay. It's a guy behind him that's on the ground.
Yeah, Danny might need a new camera.
Andre, we know you're okay. Let's pick up the guy behind you.
Did you break his lens or did the ball get it?
Well, there's nowhere to go when you're down in there. Chris is okay. It's all right, Chris. We love you, baby.
He's on first base side today, huh?
Third.
He goes first to third.
Yeah, he's first. There, he's fine. There he is.
He
love
goes
you,
first
man.
to third with the best of them.
Look at him.
Payoff pitch. Strike 3 called. It looked low. Rayburn tells Mike Estabrook about it, but that's a half dozen Ks for Keuchel.
Take a peek. Yeah, that's down a little bit. See, hitter, watch. It goes past the knee. It's borderline at best. If this guy gets those pitches called, then you're really in trouble. Because he keeps it down there and he gets a lot of ground balls if you help him out.
Seven ground ball outs to go along with 6 strikeouts. He's been pretty much vintage Dallas Keuchel. He's given up a couple of runs. And that's not bad considering he shut out the last 2 opponents he faced, the Yankees and the Royals. It's just that the Indians have not been able to get the Astros hitters out tonight. Carrasco or Santana swung and missed.
He knocked out the catcher
he
anyway.
Castro on the head.
Yeah, that's that long swing, that follow through. He's out anyway. He didn't have to tag him.
7 strikeouts.
Watch the follow through, catching the catcher on the helmet. He's fooled by that, and he comes back, and we see that a number of times throughout the course of the year with Santana. Maybe he was asking for interference. Catcher's head got in the way.
The catcher's head got in the way.
That was a long swing there,
Yeah.
the follow through.
Yes, it was. Up comes Yan Gomes. And a strike is called. Gomes doubled to right in the second inning. Struck out swinging in the fourth. Eight runs, 15 hits for Houston. They appeal. He did not go. It's 2-1.
Not even close.
That is hammered to left field. Boy, Yan Gomes with his second hit of the night. He's going to head for second. And he'll have his second double of the ball game. Both coming with 2 outs.
Yeah.
One to right, one to left. Time for our Yellowwood bringing the lumber. Brandon Moss right over the bag at first. This was back in the 4th inning. It went for an RBI triple. First triple of the year for Moss. His team leading 45th run batted in. And he hammers one into right field. His second straight RBI hit in the ballgame. So Moss drives home Gomes. Indians' third run of the night. They trail at 8-3 with 2 out here in the 6th inning.
He jumped on that first fastball right there. Drives it into right field. So Brandon with a couple RBIs and a couple of hits. They've scored single runs in the 3rd, the 4th, and now the 6th. That's 9 hits for the Tribe. But they still got a lot of work to do.
That is the most hits allowed by Dallas Keuchel in a game this year. He had given up 8 hits on a couple of occasions. But the Indians touching him for a season-high 9 here tonight. Joel Thatcher getting up now in the Houston bullpen. Urshela fouls it back. Urshela doubled and scored in the 3rd. He walked his last time up. Dallas Keuchel came in leading the American League in earned run average at 2.03. Certainly one of the best in the AL this year. But the pitching matchups the next 3 nights figure to favor the Indians. You've got Corey Kluber against Vince Velasquez, who's making just his 6th start of the year. Trevor Bauer goes against Dan Straley, who's making his 2nd start. And then Cody Anderson against Colin McHugh to wrap up the series. McHugh with an ERA of 4.54, so Should be interesting, but tonight it's been all Houston. 8 strikeouts for Dallas Keuchel, and the Astros lead it 8-3. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T UVerse, has more channels on the go than cable. (8-3) Houston as we go to the 7th inning, and it's time to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag STODataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Bottom third of the Astros order due up here in the 7th inning as Jeff Manship comes on now for Cleveland. Manship's 5th appearance as an Indian. He's done a nice job in his outings thus far. Marwin Gonzalez with a couple of hits and a run batted in on the night. There's a high fly ball hit the fairly deep right field. Moss is back and it's gone. Marwin Gonzalez with his 6th home run of the year, and the Astros just continue to hammer away at the Indians. 9-2 Houston.
Second home run of the night. Both solo shots. That one was hit pretty well.
That's what they do best. Their second home run, as you said, Rick. I mean, they lead the league in homers.
That ball was out over the plate, and it looked like it was running away from him, but he got extended and hit it a long way. That's 120 home runs now for the Astros.
And their 36th game with multiple home runs. That also leads the majors in that category.
Yeah, well, Gonzalez that's his 3rd hit. A couple of RBIs. They've got 2 guys with 3 hits and 1 guy with 4.
Yeah.
They're putting on a clinic today. 16 hits now.
Castro joined the hit parade his last time up with a single.
Yeah, he was invited to the party. He finally showed up.
There's a strike. 3-1. Well, the left-handed hitters for Houston have done some serious damage. 4 left-handed bats in the lineup for the Astros tonight. There's a bouncer. And Santana will take it himself. One away. Tomorrow night we'll bring you the second game of this 4-game series with the Astros. As I mentioned before, Corey Kluber and Vincent Velasquez will be the matchup. Alan Jensen start our coverage with Indians Live at 6:30. And then the first pitch is 7 o'clock right here on Sports Time Ohio. Jake Marisnick takes a strike. Swung out and missed, and he was out quickly. Manship disposes of Marisnick, 2 down.
Well, the Oakland A's head to town for a weekend series before we head into the All-Star break. And you can save on tickets by lower reserved or lower box. Save 20%. It's only available tonight at Indians.com/buy early.
Jose Altuve and a breaking ball in for a strike. Altuve 2 for 4. His infield single in the first inning, but then in the 6th he clobbered an RBI double off the wall in left center field. Fastball in the dirt, 3-1. Altuve signed a contract extension a few years back. He'll be an Astro through at least 2017. So they've got him for 2 years after this. Manship walks him.
That's hard to do because he likes to swing it.
Well, Preston Tucker's had a night to remember here in Cleveland. Singled his first time up, came around to score the first run of the game. Doubled in the second. And then in the 4th inning, oh yeah, he went down on a knee, yanked it out of here. And then his 4th hit of the night, an RBI single the other way in the 6th inning.
Nothing but cracks for him. Crack, and I mean loud ones.
Takes a strike. Mentioned before, Tucker played at Florida in college. He's the only Gator in school history to be named the most outstanding player of 2 different NCAA regional tournaments. And he's also the school's all-time leader in NCAA tournament hits, RBIs, runs, homers, and doubles.
I can see why.
Pop back out of play. Oh. Almost right into the booth.
Just below us. We didn't have to move a whole lot, but I didn't think it was that close. I'm surprised it didn't hit that and just jump up and hit me in the forehead and put me out for a while.
Ooh, the way this night's going. The 1-2. Kipnis will go to first, and that'll end the inning. But another homer for Houston. They lead it 9-3 as we've reached the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. The Detroit Tigers take on the Minnesota Twins Saturday in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1 beginning at 4 Eastern. Then it's baseball night in America as the Yankees battle the Red Sox on your local Fox affiliate. It's all on your home for baseball every Saturday, Fox and Fox Sports 1. Joe Thatcher, left-hander, coming on for Houston. 31 games. He's put up a very solid ERA of 2.04.
Yeah, he's been scoreless in 16 of his last 17 outings. He'll have Aviles, Kipnis, and Lindor. So, but we consider what a short start for Dallas Keuchel tonight, just 6 innings.
Yeah.
He gave up 9 hits, which is a season high for him in that department, and 3 runs, but offensively, they gave him a breather.
There's nobody up in the Houston bullpen, which is a rarity for Thatcher because usually when he comes in, it's kind of a matchup situation.
Right.
22 out of 31 appearances have been less than an inning this year. And in 392 total career appearances, 249 of them have been less than a full inning.
He's like Mark Zipchinski.
But he's got a real different delivery. I mean, left-handers are a little funky in general, but he kind of gives you that, I don't want to say Ubaldo, but he wraps the arm back around him a little bit.
He leans back and then falls forward. Watch his back after he comes set, he leans back and then that whole body goes forward. So you'd think he would have a tough time, but he doesn't throw that hard. So it's maybe deception.
Yeah, watch his the pitching hand. It'll go behind him. Almost show it to the hitter on the backside.
He's coming in at 85. So here's what the hitter, I don't know if he can pick it up once it gets behind him, but he's not even looking at you until he throws the ball. Cuts underneath it. It's just a matter of picking it up.
The 2-2. Upstairs. Thatcher and Tony Sipp, the other left-hander, out of the Houston bullpen. And Sip took the loss yesterday in Boston. He gave up the home run to Hanley Ramirez. Thatcher comes out and walks the leadoff man. Dallas Keuchel tonight, nothing spectacular, but just kind of, this is what Dallas Keuchel is. He put it in play.
He grinded his way through 6 innings. He gave up 9 hits, but got a few strikeouts at 8. To be honest with you, 2 double play balls were the big plays in the inning, but they had opportunities to come back in the game at that point in time. But for every fly ball out he has, he averages about 5 ground ball outs. At least that's what he's done this year, and he got the big double play ball when needed tonight.
Jason Kipnis looks, and it's outside ball 1. That is generously called a strike. The former Fausto Carmona is also working out of the Houston bullpen now. He began the season as a starter, but his last 7 appearances out of the bullpen have been really good. Which is kind of hard to believe when you think back to his time in Cleveland. He's a guy that can have a difficult time throwing strikes.
Yeah.
So to think that he could come out of the bullpen. But they're making it work at least to this point. Kipnis out on strikes. 1 down here in the 7th inning.
Well, left-handed, you can see that might be a little bit tougher at bat up there. It's the breaking ball. It seems like it never gets there, and he has Jason out in front. You don't see many swings like that from Jason Kipnis.
Well, Francisco Lindor 1 for 3 on the night. Steps to the plate. Called a strike over the inside part of the plate. Lindor with a 1-ball, 1-strike count, 1 on, 1 out here in the 7th, and the Indians down 9-3. And he just ran it in on him, able to throw it by him. Seems to be a guy that really you almost throw the radar out because of his ability to maybe hide it.
Yeah.
Sneaky fast, as they say.
Like a deception. You're right. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of picking the baseball up, and if you've never faced him before, it takes a while.
There's a base hit by Lindor into left field. Well, he picked that one up. Then Avila's in the scoring position.
Yeah, he got a read of this one. This was up, and it was middle of the plate. So that's what you do. If you leave it there, you're going to get hit around. I don't care if you have deception or not. Now it'll give Brantley an opportunity with 2 guys aboard. Michael's 0 for 3 tonight.
Inside corner, he gets ahead, strike 1. Brantley flied out with a couple of runners aboard back in the 3rd inning. It's only opportunity to drive in runs tonight.
And now he's in the hole quickly, 0-2. That Neshek getting loose. Up and away. Joe Thatcher began his career in the independent leagues. And he's bounced around between San Diego, Arizona, spent some of last year with the Dodgers. Was a non-roster invite on a minor league deal for Houston this year. Way outside. Nice stab by Castro. He was signed just 1 week before pitchers and catchers reported to spring training. Out of Kokomo, Indiana.
Kokomo. Isn't that where Hammy's son's playing baseball right now?
Yep.
The Wooden Bat League.
Thatcher's 33 years old. And he's having a tough time with Brantley. It's almost like he got ahead of him, and then he did not want to make a mistake. And by trying to be too careful, he's pitched Michael right back into the at-bat.
Yeah, you have to be a little more aggressive when you have a 6-run lead. You get him down in the count 0-2.
Brent Strom is on the horn. And it might not be a full inning for Joe Thatcher, though I think that was the plan when the inning began. 2 on, 1 out, payoff pitch. And a foul back. Can't help but think, as bad as this night has been, one big swing could make this real interesting. Three-two pitch. Fouled back. And now Castro goes out. Thatcher has made this a lot more interesting than anyone in that Houston dugout was hoping he would.
Yeah, well, 21 pitches on the night. His job is to come in here, first of all, and throw strikes. He walked the leadoff guy. And then he got Kipnis on the strikeout. A base hit here, but, you know, he's not being aggressive.
Ryan Rayburn waits on deck, but we might see David Murphy should the Astros decide to go to Neshek.
Oh, I'm sure we would.
And the payoff pitch. Another foul back by Brantley.
Well, Michael knows he doesn't want to walk him, so he's got to come in with a pretty good pitch. He was down in the count 0-2, and this is going to be the 9th pitch in the at-bat.
Ball 4, the bases are loaded. He's walked 2 in the inning, and that's going to be it. Not what A.J. Hinch had in mind. We've got a timeout here at Progressive Field. Indians down 9-3. But like I said, one big swing of the bat could change this thing in a hurry. So the right-hander, Pat Neshek, will be coming on, and David Murphy will be called on to pinch hit when we come back. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Bases loaded, 1 out, bottom of the 7th. David Murphy, the pinch hitter, will face right-hander Pat Neshek. Neshek got a little funky delivery. He's not really, he almost looks like he's going to come at you submarine sidearm.
Yeah.
But then he raises up at the last moment. It's just sort of a slinging style that he brings the ball to the plate. But in 35 appearances, a 2.90 ERA. David Murphy, meanwhile, 8 for 24 as a pinch hitter with 3 homers, 5 runs batted in. The Indians this year batting 143 with the bases loaded. But David Murphy, he's a cool 1 for 1. Outside corner for a strike.
That's one pitch right there, a take that you want to get a look at where he's throwing the ball from, where it comes out of as a hitter. You don't see many pitchers like that.
That was weird. It was a no, yes, no. And then he stepped off. All right, now he's got one he likes, the 0-1. Outside, he floated that one in there at 68 miles an hour.
Yeah, that was a floater. That's a good call.
Already, he's tied the club record with 3 pinch hit homers. Left field. Rasmus on the move, makes the catch just inside the line. Tagging and coming home to score is Mike Aviles. And it's a 9-4 ball game. Murphy with another RBI in that pinch hit role. 23 on the year and 6 as a pinch hitter. Look at the defensive alignment here.
Well, yeah, they're playing him that way, thinking he's going to slap it. Played perfectly. Right over on the line.
So 2 down now for Carlos Santana. Santana 1 out of 3 on the night. And a strike called on the ball that Santana looked like he checked his swing on, and Castro didn't catch it. Just missed inside.
Show pitch in there for the fastball to come back with that changeup again. You know Santana loves the fastball.
Brantley's at first, Lindor's at second. And 2 down in the inning. Drive down 5. Oh, called a strike, and it's 1-2.
The ball running away from him. Carlos thought that pitch was down.
And a foul right back. You ran the fastball in there, and Santana couldn't quite square it up. Neshek relies on all sorts of movement and deception. Got the glove pointed at the hitter. He's got the leg twitching and the body moving.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you teach a guy to come up with that stretch or that windup?
Right back on the infield, and Correa throws him out. Indians get another run, but as we go to the 8th, they trail it down 9-4. Authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Houston with a 9-4 lead. We're in the 8th inning. 3, 4, 5 hitters due up for Houston. Carlos Correa, Evan Gattis, and Colby Rasmus. Jeff Manship, who will pitch the 7th inning, will stay on to work the 8th. Made 20 pitches in that 7th inning. Gave up a solo homer to Marwin Gonzalez. Correa held without a hit tonight, 0 for 3 with a walk, and he has scored 2 runs.
Yeah, his walk came back in the 1st inning, the big 4-run 1st inning for Houston that got them kick-started. It was a long 39-pitch inning for Carlos Carrasco tonight.
Center field, Brantley makes the catch, 1 down. Well, earlier today, the All-Star reserves were announced, and here's a look at the All-Star pitchers named to the squad today. Chris Archer of the Tampa Bay Rays, Betances, terrific reliever out of the Yankee bullpen. Brad Boxberger out of the pen of Tampa. Dallas Keuchel, we mentioned earlier. Glenn Perkins, top save man in the league. John Singleton getting a pinch hit appearance here. Fouled right back. Let's go down to Andre.
You know, you guys just showed that graphic, and it didn't have any Indians pitchers on the All-Star roster. And Terry Francona goes, look, I'm prejudiced. They're my guys. But he feels like as a former manager that's picked teams before, he understands what Ned Yost went through. But he feels like certain guys should get looked at for what they did over the last half of the last season as well as this season. You take a look at a guy like Carrasco coming in today. He was 16-10 with a 2.80 ERA since last year's All-Star break. You can say the same for Corey Kluber, who won the Cy Young Award. He's not complaining. He just feels like, hey, sometimes you should look at what a guy did in the last half of a season as well as the first half of a season when it comes to picking an All-Star.
Well, that gives you a full season when you look at it that way. Well, like you said, he's been through it before. He's picked pitchers for all-star teams.
The 2-2. Swung out and missed. Singleton goes down. 2 down.
And speaking of those meetings, guys, the best story Tito told me was when he was in Boston after they won the World Series. First time he had to have a team meeting after picking the all-star team, and half of his guys didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it caused problems in his own clubhouse.
Well, you can imagine. That's why if you're a manager and you know what your guys do every year, why wouldn't you pick them to give them the benefit of the doubt?
Well, Mike Hargrove went through it.
I think everybody does.
Ned Yost certainly dealing with it, although the fans took care of most of his issues. They voted most of their guys in.
Well, yeah, but at one point it was 8 of them.
Yeah.
Until it settled down and other people started voting.
Fly ball left field, and Aviles will make the catch. The Astros go 1-2-3 for the first time tonight. Well, coming up next week, it's the Midsummer Classic at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. And our coverage of the All-Star Game will begin at 7 Eastern on Fox and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Josh Fields will come on to pitch the bottom of the 8th for Houston after Pat Neshek got the last 2 outs in the 7th. Fields a right-hander, has a .277 ERA in 27 outings. He ranks 6th among American League relievers with almost 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings on the ratio. Broken bat by Gomes. Correa gobbles it up and throws him out. 1 away. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. On this date back in 1986, many of you watched it on the old Superstation down in Atlanta. Bob Horner.
Well, yeah, he couldn't get inside on him. He had
not 1, not 2, not 3, but a 4 home run game.
Huh?
Yeah, that's a game to remember.
Strike on the outside corner. I was in Atlanta the following summer and watched some of those Braves teams. Whew, they were not good. Foul back.
They did have Dale Murphy, though.
They had Dale Murphy, and Chuck Tanner was the manager, but they didn't have a whole lot else. Yeah. I remember Ozzie Virgil was the catcher.
I know Ossenmacher was down there then, and I think Ted Simmons was back down there in their bullpen at that time, catching, you know.
Mm-hmm. I remember a Father's Day game. They played Cincinnati and saw Buddy Bell and Dave Parker for Cincinnati. Moss flies out, 2 down.
And what was your job down there that year, may I ask?
I was working for the old Archway Cookie Company. I was
nice.
driving a delivery truck in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was only 19 years old, so they said, you know, here's a company card for, you know, meals and entertainment, etc. And I'm like, can I go to the ballpark with that? They said, sure,
that's
go
entertainment.
ahead. Yeah. Well, and back then, 1987, like I said, the Braves weren't exactly a juggernaut. This was right before they became that. So I could go down to old Fulton County Stadium and pretty much sit wherever I wanted.
Yeah. Well, watch a ball game, which you enjoy doing.
It was great. High fly ball. Right center field. Right fielder Tucker calls for it. Makes the catch. Indians go in order. We go to the ninth. 9-4 Houston. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. We go to the ninth inning, and Zach McAllister on the pitch for Cleveland. McAllister will be facing the 6, 7, and 8 hitters.
Fifth pitcher for the Indians tonight, and every pitcher has given up at least a run. Carrasco gave up 5, Hagedorn 1, Adams gave up a couple, Manship 1.
Roberto Perez comes on for Yan Gomes.
Chris Carter will lead it off. He is 0 for 2. He has walked, struck out twice, and drove in a run with a sac fly. That was in the first inning. You know, it was in 1987, that summer I was in Atlanta, where we wouldn't feel it for years to come, but a seismic shift occurred that summer where the balance of power shifted to Atlanta, as bad as they were that year. That was the summer they traded Doyle Alexander.
Oh, yeah, that's right, to Detroit.
And got John Smoltz to go along with Tom Glavine. And what was it, 4 years later, they went from worst to first. Back-to-back World Series. But that's where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people like to say, oh, man, how could the Tigers give up John Smoltz? Well, Doyle Alexander helped them in '87 get to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, I think he won 10 or 11 games for him since after the trade.
Swing and a miss. Carter down on strikes for the third time tonight. 1 away. Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game. Marwin Gonzalez. What a night. He capped the 4-run first inning with that dagger into right field. Then after a single in the third, grounded out in the fifth. Then he homered in the seventh, giving Houston their major league leading 36th game with multiple homers. They've also extended their streak to 46 straight games with an extra base hit.
You talked about that Doyle Alexander. He made 11 starts for the Tigers. He was 9-0.
Wow, 9-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. They needed him, but they also gave up a future Hall of Famer to get him.
Well,
how did they know that, though, right?
The chance you take.
Yeah. For Bobby Cox and the Braves, it turned out to be huge because he was the GM in '87. He would have been the guy that pulled the trigger on that deal. And it would eventually go down and take over on the bench. Now, this Astros team has suffered through some pretty lean years, but they're starting to see the fruition of those drafts. That it looks like they've hit some home runs on a couple of these guys. And Carlos Correa, good-looking young player. Unfortunately for them, another one of their good young guys, George Springer's out with an injury.
Yeah, they're going to have to weather that storm because he's a very good player.
But Preston Tucker has had a whale of a night, 4-hit ball game with a home run tonight. It will be interesting to see, Rick, as we go now a couple of weeks away from the trading deadline. Are the Astros in position to make a move now?
Why wouldn't they be?
You're in first place.
Yeah, why wouldn't they be? I think they could use another starting pitcher. Yes, I would say if they could go get one, absolutely. With their payroll.
The 0-1. On one pitch. That's hit pretty well to right field, but Moss is there. Makes the catch. And the Astros go 1-2-3. We'll go to the bottom of the ninth. 9-4 Houston.
4, Houston leads it. Bottom of the ninth. We'll look back at our Wayside Furniture keys to the game, none of which really worked out for the Tribe tonight. Astros with 2 more homers, and the Indians, they had opportunities to score more than the 4 they have on the board. But A, they were going up against Dallas Keuchel, who's tough, doesn't give up many crooked numbers. And B, late in the game, it's tough when you're looking for a one big hit to climb back in it.
They jumped out early. When you're down 4-0 in the first inning, it's hard to come back. Even though you have the rest of the game, because what you pretty much have to do is put zeros on the board. They couldn't do that tonight. So they never really gave their offense a chance to come back in it. Although they battled, they got to 10 hits.
The 3 spot in the 6 pretty much took him out of it.
Yes, it did. And that's right before he was doing that. That's where Keuchel got his 2 double play balls, is when they were really trying to cut into that lead before, and then they come in and then they give you a left hook after they already threw the right
jab.
Yeah, in the first.
1 down as Aviles fouls out. Top of the order, Jason Kipnis, who is 1 for 3 on the night. Breaking ball in there for a strike. Low, 1 ball, 1 strike. So Fields pitched the last inning yesterday, and now he's working on pitching the final 2 innings here tonight. You'd have to think that there's a good chance he won't be available tomorrow.
Yeah. Day off tomorrow.
Jason, did he go? Oh, he did. He chased the ball up out of the strike zone. And that is out number 2.
Elevated the fastball and couldn't check it.
So it will bring up Francisco Lindor. Strike on the outside corner. A little bit high. And a count 1-1. That one sailed. 2 balls and a strike. Lindor with a single in the 3rd inning. And then he had a base hit in the 7th as the Indians would load the bases trying to make a game out of it, but they can only manage a run in each of those innings in which he had hits. Just no crooked numbers tonight, and that's what they really needed, trying to fight from behind all evening. Tomorrow night, it's Corey Kluber for the Indians. Vincent Velasquez will go for Houston. 7 o'clock here on Sports Time Ohio. Lindor strikes out, and that's the ball game. The Astros come in and dominate here in the series opening. series opener as they even the season series at 2 games apiece. Dallas Keuchel gets the win. He goes to 11-3 on the season. The loss to Carlos Carrasco, who falls to 10-7. The win snaps a 2-game losing skid for Houston. They go to 49-36. Indians have now dropped 3 in a row, and they fall to 38-44 on the season. 9-4 is the final score. 13,516 the attendance here tonight.
Yeah, it was all Houston early, and they just knocked the Indians right out of rhythm. And Carrasco, after, he had one of his best starts ever, coming out here, they scored 4 in the first, took him out of the rhythm. He had about a 39-pitch first inning. They just couldn't recover.
No. They never were able to recover from the first inning flurry by the Astros, and we'll see if they can even up the series tomorrow night in Game 2 with Corey Kluber on the hill. We'll be here to bring it to you at 7 o'clock on Sports Time Ohio. For Rick Manning and Andre Knott, I'm Matt Underwood. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for Indians Live coming up next.